How is it going, Manchester United faithful? We're back on the Fanchester United channel and we're doing something a bit different today. Today we're going to be running through and doing a tier list of the squad that we have so far for the 2022-2023 Premier League season. So I've got a full tier list, as you can see on your screens now, of all the team players that we currently have. Now, there is going to be a few points I want to make. The window isn't closed as of making this, so we might sign some more players. And I've also excluded a few of the youngsters, a few of the under-23s or reserve players that haven't made it fully into the first team. These players would include Hannibal. These players would include Garnacho. I'm not too sure on the pronunciation, but I've seen him play a few times at the under-23s. And he's a fantastic, fantastic player, but we've just not got him in. There's a few others that we haven't really included. Amad Diallo hasn't made it just because he's not really been in the team. So there are a few players that I could have included, but I've kind of done this as a brief one. If we enjoy it, I'll do another one and I'll include them and we'll do a full run through. So let me know if you do enjoy this video. I've also got an older kit on, so if you do subscribe, maybe I can buy the new kit. Fingers crossed you do. Let's get into the tier list. So to start us off, I'm going to run through the different sections. As I said, I've kind of made this quite quickly, so I don't want these to be read into too much, but let's go through the different tiers. So we have sell these players. It sounds a bit harsh, but I'm kind of trying to be a bit brutal maybe on this first one. Maybe if you can think of other names to name them, let me know in the comment section and I can change it. We've got loan out, a player that might need a bit of development but not ready for this first team. We've got a player that is good squad rotation or bench player. So this player would be in the squad. They'll maybe come on as a super sub. They'll maybe come on a bit later in the season. The Premier League now has 5 substitutions. So this is an important category and not to be kind of like seen as a negative if you go into that section. We have top level players, players that are currently at the squad that I believe are top level and are players that we should be aspiring to sign more players like them, if that makes sense. The other option, the top S tier, is going to be Champions League / Premier League winners level. These are the players I believe are good enough to be in a Champions League / Premier League winning team. Players that I think we should be keeping on to and getting a lot more of these players, if that makes sense, or trying to retain them. So let's, without any further ado, start ranking these players. So to start us off, we have Tom Heaton. Tom Heaton's an interesting one. He's a little bit of an older, more experienced keeper, probably a bit more of a coach at the same time as being like kind of reserves goalkeeper. Dean Henderson's actually gone out on loan to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest kind of building up a bit of a Manchester United contingency, also signing Jesse Lingard this week. So Tom Heaton, I think he's perfect for that category that I said we shouldn't really be seen as a negative, which is the squad rotation or bench players. I think he's perfect as a bench player, a player that if De Gea gets an injury, he can step up. So for the time being, I think he's perfect for that category. Moving on from there, we're going to go to David De Gea. Now, David De Gea is a bit of an interesting one. I think with Ten Hag's system, he's not really a goalkeeper that plays well with the ball at his feet. It's an interesting one. I think in time, he might well be... Oh, this is harsh. This is really harsh. I don't know with De Gea. To be honest, I think he is a top-level player. I wouldn't say he's Champions League level winning with the current system that we're trying to integrate into the squad. Moving on from there, we have a new signing. We actually have the new Tyrell Malacia, I do believe is how we pronounce the name. Tyrell Malacia, what more can you say? A fantastic, fantastic 22-year-old left-back who might well, from what we're seeing in pre-season, walk into that left-back position. Yet to be told with him as well, because he's also very, very young. Top level player, got a lot of potential. He's been signed up from Feyenoord in the Dutch league, so Ten Hag's obviously had his eye on him. Obviously aware of the player's quality and skill. We've got him for a relatively cheap price. I believe it's like 40 million maybe with add-ons. A fantastic price for such a young fullback. Fingers crossed he can maybe walk into that position, but we'll get on to another left-back who I believe will be holding that spot for a while anyway. That player is not, in fact, Alex Telles. To be honest, Alex Telles is... Oh, it's a tough one with Alex Telles. He's getting on a bit now. I believe he is actually 27, 28 years old, so he's at the precipice of his career. He's not been a particularly bad player for us, but for the meantime, whilst he's still at a high, I'm actually going to put Telles in to sell. Now, this is no slight on the player. With us buying Malacia, also having Luke Shaw, also having Brandon Williams as a worst case scenario who can play that position. I know he's right-footed and he's not the best at a left-back position, but he also can play left-back if we need him. That's exactly what you want from a squad player. I'm actually going to put Telles in sell. I just think because if he's sat on the bench or he's not getting enough game time, his valuation will just continue to decrease. So for me personally, I think he has to be a sell this season. If we're not going to be playing him, if he's in the plans, this would be completely different. Maybe we reapproach this squad maybe halfway through the season and see where we sit. I do believe we should sell Telles. Luke Shaw, I'm going to put him in squad rotation. Luke Shaw. My justification for Luke Shaw being in squad rotation is, I think in time over this season, I think Luke Shaw will actually start for us at the beginning of the season. He knows the Premier League. It gives time for Malacia to adapt to the league. For me personally, I think by the end of the season, maybe halfway through the season, Malacia will take that position as his own. I don't think, obviously, Ten Hag signing a player like Malacia in that position. He obviously has full confidence in Luke Shaw. Last time we signed Telles, that really did spur on Luke Shaw, so I'm really hoping for them both kind of fighting for that position this season. I do think we will start for Luke Shaw in that left-back position at the beginning games, but I do think Malacia will take that position. So for me, I'm going to actually put Luke Shaw in squad rotation / bench player. That is also the level of maybe players that play in the Cup, maybe playing Europa League, and also getting minutes in the Premier League in between, obviously with the new 5-sub rule. So for me, I am going to put Luke Shaw in that. A lot of it actually comes down to the fact as well that I was so annoyed by some of those performances last season, and I'm so glad we've strengthened that position, because it wasn't like one of the positions that was like a definite to strengthen, but it needed to, whether it was over time or immediate. Moving on next, we're going to come to Lisandro Martinez. He's an interesting one. He's quite a malleable player. Come over with the coach Ten Hag from Ajax. I'm really quite interested to see how he does in the Premier League, because he's actually quite, in terms, he's a small player for the Premier League for a centre-back. I do believe he's 5'9", which Premier League level, a lot of people say 6 foot, 6'1" is the ideal size, if not taller, for the Premier League. So it will be interesting to see how he gets on. If he's quite technical, obviously with the ball at his feet, he will be coming from that system in the Dutch League and playing for Ajax. I do believe he could be partnered well with maybe a different centre-back. I'm not going to say who. Maybe we'll get to that point later on. But yeah, I do think for me personally, he will be a fantastic player, as he is malleable as well. So he's actually filled in at left back for Ajax in the season just gone. And he's also filled in at the centre defensive mid spot. So kind of similar to Daley Blind in the sense that coming from an Ajax system, they're used to maybe changing positions, being a bit more malleable. Whereas in the English league, a lot of players are set and you are that position. The Dutch league's a little bit more interchangeable. So maybe if a position isn't right for him, it might be able to be adapted and he might be placed in a different position where it suits him more in the Premier League. So we'll just have to see. But it's what we've been crying out for, which is a left-footed centre-back, which is so crucial to this team. It's a tough one to call. I maybe would be looking more towards top-level player, as I do believe that the coach has picked him, and I believe that the coach sees what he wants from him and will have an idea and a goal to use him. So I'm going to put him in top-level player. We haven't actually seen him play yet, so this could change when we come back to this squad. But for the meantime, I'm going to put him top-level player. We'll see how he gets on. Moving on from there, we have Raphaël Varane. This guy's been plagued with injuries this last season, but for me, it's going to sound crazy, but for me, I'm going to actually put him in a Champions League / Premier League winning squad. If he can find a way to stop the injuries and this guy gets consistent, solid playing time in the squad, there's no doubt that this guy is a starting centre-back partner for whoever gets in that the left centre-back position. Looking at Martinez, so my personal preference for the centre-backs are actually Martinez and Raphaël Varane, leaving out the obvious. We'll get to that soon enough though, but I do think that he's 27, 28 years old, so he's not particularly old by any means. You know, he's a bit of a freak of nature, but if you look at somebody like Thiago Silva, still bossing it at like 37 in the Premier League. Now, he is coming to maybe the latter end of his career, and not everybody can go to that stage, but just looking at Thiago Silva, he's got 10 years still in him, which is maybe at a stretch. So let's just say if he has 5 more years in him, if he carries on He's 27, 28. I think let's just go 28. So if he's playing till 33, 5 more years at the top level, that's not particularly old for a centre-back. And I do believe that he will be bread and butter if he can just stay fit. So that would maybe make me inch him down in estimation overall. But I'm going to say for the time being, if he stays fit and stays solid in that squad, he is just game-changing for us in this season and future seasons to come. People might disagree with me here. We've now got Eric Bailly. Eric Bailly for me is, he's just good vibes. I absolutely love him. When I watch him, he's so entertaining. You don't know whether you're going to get a 10 out of 10 performance or just a performance where he gets a straight red card in the first 10 minutes. Similar to Raphaël Varane in the sense that he's just not managed to be consistently fit. He's been plagued with injuries. I'm not too sure on his age currently, but do you know what? I bloody love this guy and I can't say anything else, but I'm going to have to say he's got to be squad rotation player. He's definitely there, like you said, behind the scenes as well. I think it's so important to have good morale. People might say sell him, but for me, I want to keep him. I love him to bits. Harry Maguire. A lot of this squad is defensive as well. I've noticed there's a lot more defensive players than attacking players. I feel like I've missed a few. Let me know who I've missed in the comments if you are aware of who I've missed. I know I've said Diallo, but like I said, we'll see how we get on with this. So we've got Harry Maguire. For me, do you know what? I am going to say he's a top-level player. I think he gets far too much stick. I think the price tag of 80 million, captain's armband, I do think he is a top-level player. I think he's been absolutely hounded by our fans, and I don't think that makes it any easier at all. We've obviously seen that when he felt the need to celebrate when he scored for England, to kind of basically tell his own fans to shush, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I think our own fan base have really got into his head, and obviously it's a massive role being captain, let alone being a player for Manchester United. I do think there is a top-level player in there. I think he needs to maybe have the captain's armband removed from him, just to let him build up the confidence in a weird way. I think that most people would be like, that's going to hit you with an absolute kind of basically to get the armband took off you. It's not a positive thing. For me personally, I think it would do him wonders, maybe as a stretch, but I do think he needs that kind of step back from the limelight. Phil Jones, less said about Phil Jones the better. He's the only remaining player, I believe, not including Ronaldo, from the last time we won the Premier League, which is crazy. I think he's been at the team for like 13 years, which is just mental. He's not going to get game times. He's sat on the bench. The only issue with him is finding a club that are willing to pay that amount of wages for him. It's not easy to come by, but I do believe just to kind of cut him out for his own sake. He's not going to get much minutes at us, at our club. He's still 29, which absolutely blows your mind that he's not 30. But yeah, 29 years old, or around about 30, I believe. Phil Jones, probably time he moved on from the club, and we'll see how we get on with him from there. Enough said on that. We're going to move through now to Victor Lindelöf. We'll speed this up a little bit here. I think Victor Lindelöf is, for me, a squad rotation player. Again, not a particularly bad player, not a particularly top level player. People are going to absolutely brutalise me here for putting Harry Maguire. I do think he is a top level player. I just don't think he's had the best of time. But I'm going to say Victor Lindelöf, same as Bailly. Cup games, squad depth in case anybody gets injured, playing the occasional game as well because he's fantastic at that ball distribution. When I think of him, I just think of that link up. I think we scored about 2 goals, maybe last season before as well included, of him just firing those long balls straight over to Rashford and Rashford just burying him in the back of the net. That's all I think of, just that ball distribution, and I do feel like he will come along well under Ten Hag. Moving on from there, a guy that I've been really impressed with, but I don't know whether I can say top level player. I'm going to say Dalot once again. This is not a bad category. I'm going to say squad rotation bench player again. I don't want people thinking that this is kind of a negative, because I really don't think it is. I think it's good enough to be in the squad, and that's massive for such a big team like Manchester United. Diogo Dalot, I think personally for me, top level player, deserves to be in the squad. Fantastic showing in pre-season. What we've really needed is, he seemed to lose that attacking side of him when he went to Italy for that one season. So it's good to kind of see that developing back again. Once again, another player that I believe will come on leaps and bounds this season. And I think he potentially, unless we sign another right back, that right back spot is his over Wan-Bissaka. So interesting to see how he gets on. Moving on now to that player, in fact, and that is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I don't know with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's still relatively young. I don't know whether he's going to get much game time. It's hard to say with Brandon Williams. Do we keep... Right, I'm trying to look at the next player as well, which is Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams or Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Which one do we keep as a squad rotation player, as a backup? Which player do we either sell or loan out? I did hear some interest in Brandon Williams. Really, these two are a toss-up at the moment. I think either could play as backup. I think Dalot is that starting right-back at the moment, and it's just between these two being a backup or being sold or loaned out. So it's very, very hard to say. I think for me, ideally, what am I going to say? I'm really struggling for this one. I think what I'm going to say is Aaron Wan-Bissaka as a squad player. I want to see how he develops under Ten Hag. I think he's more of a complete player than Brandon Williams. I think he's had more experience at the top level. There's definitely a very, very solid defensive player in him. Whether that suits Ten Hag's system, whether Ten Hag can help him develop his attacking side. But I think Dalot, the starting right back, I wouldn't say he's top level. I think ideally we could probably do signing a top level right back, which would then drop Aaron Wan-Bissaka down to loan out or potentially sell. But for the meantime, I think he's a good backup option. Dalot starting, and I think we should loan out Brandon Williams to get that top level experience again. Like I said, it was a toss-up. Either one could have been swapped round. I could have loaned out Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well. But I think it's younger, needs a bit more development. Brandon Williams had a bit of interest as well, I believe, by a top-level team as well, Premier League level. Maybe Nottingham Forest again, I'm not too sure. I did read something in that. Moving on from there, we're going to come up now to the midfielders. There's not a lot of attacking players when you actually look at this team. We've got Scott McTominay. Once again, I think he's fantastic as a squad rotation player. Still developing, still a bit rash. Always looking to break some ankles, as you see on the pitch. A bit similar to Eric Bailly in the sense when you don't know whether he's going to have a wondrous performance or whether he's going to get a straight red in the first 10 minutes. I don't like that about players at times. I think they could maybe be a bit more controlled, a bit more smart with it. And I don't really see that from Scott McTominay. He always seems like a liability when he's on the pitch and then just has a moment of absolute sheer excellence. And you're like, why isn't there more of that? Hopefully Ten Hag can develop that again. I do believe he will. So let's just say good squad rotation / squad player. Ooh, this is hard. Fred, again, I'm going to put squad rotation. I don't think he's a top level player. I think he's come on leaps and bounds as well under Ten Hag in pre-season already. Doing that nice little chip goal in pre-season, I think, against Crystal Palace. I want to see more of that. I want to see how he develops potentially in the Premier League. And I think as well, we do the same for Donny van de Beek as well. I'm not sure why some of these have white backgrounds as well. Sorry about that, guys. But as we can see, Donny van de Beek, I think all three of them kind of may be vying for those positions. If we sign De Jong or we sign a big midfielder, maybe a Ruben Neves, this completely changes everything and this lineup wouldn't look the same. So as we stand, I think having those three vie out for the positions and seeing who develops the best under Ten Hag's system, I think that's our best bet for the time being. If we are playing two CDMs, I don't know how the system's going to play out, but let's just say we are. It's good to have three people fighting for that position. Moving on to another signing, we have Christian Eriksen. No denying that this guy is a top level player. A really, really good player. I'm really excited to see him integrated into the squad. I do believe that he probably will be played more as a squad rotation player, but there is no denying that literally this guy, even though obviously we know what happened at the Euros, this guy's absolutely bossed it for Brentford last season. And when we signed him, it kind of came out of nowhere, but I'm so excited to see him play in a Manchester United shirt. He's one of those players that I always admired at Tottenham. He really, really did drag through that team before Son and Kane's development. He was one of the top level guys that I think from the Bale money, he was the only one that kind of came good. All the rest kind of flopped, all the players that they signed during that time, like Vlad Chiriches and the rest of the group that kind of, like Eric Lamela. Those are just a few that kind of come to mind. Who else was it? Paulinho, I think. Oh my God, they're all coming back now. But Christian Eriksen was the only one who kind of came good and really did push on that Tottenham team from dropping down to like a low-end team at times. You know, he really, really did stand true. Now, we're going back a few years, but he's bossed it out in Italy. Obviously, the incident happened when he was playing for Denmark, but still for Brentford last season, this guy is absolute quality. And whether he's helping players develop as well, you've got to remember these guys are training together day in, day out, and I think he can only be good. A very similar player to Juan Mata, I think. Hopefully, maybe a little bit more influential, like a younger Juan Mata. But yeah, that swap out for Juan Mata leaving and Christian Eriksen coming in is like kind of an ideal scenario. Kind of upbeat, friendly, happy guy behind the scenes, but also can switch it on when he needs to. Bruno Fernandes. Anybody who says otherwise is absolutely insane. Bruno Fernandes is a fantastic, fantastic player. I think he will be the captain of this squad in a few years' time for my opinion anyway. This guy is so vocal. He's always getting a yellow card from the referees or officials for gobbing off or having a shout. If he has that captain's armband, that's that yellow card gone. Because he's allowed to speak to the officials and maybe watch that dissent, maybe not swearing as much as we see him do. But this guy's passionate. This guy's absolutely exciting as anything. He didn't have the best season last season, but the squad's evolving, the squad's changing, and I do think this guy will be front and centre in that squad. Hopefully, we can kind of match his ambitions and really push on with this squad now, whether that's new signings or just the players that we currently have developing and pushing on as well. Everybody getting behind the system. I keep saying this system, we're yet to see it, but I do think he's a top level player, and for me he will be with this squad hopefully for a good few years as we develop into that top four, maybe pushing for the Premier League, pushing for the Champions League in a few years time. I don't think maybe this season, maybe not, we'll see. For the Premier League, that is, obviously not Champions League. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes, fantastic player, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing how he develops. Pellistri, from what I've seen of Pellistri, I like him. He liked one of my TikToks. Yes, my dude. I think loan him out or sell, to be honest. I'm not seeing the development that I really want to see from him, so I'm probably going to put him in sell. I think he's not really a player that I've seen and I've been like absolutely wowed. I think with the youth development that we've got coming through as well, he might be struggling for positions, and I think those youth players can kind of fill those positions of squad rotation, lower level squad that can kind of come up from the reserves, come up from under 23s and fill positions as kind of bit part players or just squad bench players. Something that Ten Hag really, really does push as well. So for me, Pellistri just hasn't got that it factor to make it to the top level as from what I've seen. But I do believe he can play at the top level in Europe elsewhere. And I do think that he probably needs to get sold out because he's not going to get the minutes in my opinion, and it's also not good for the player's development. So for my sake and his, I'm going to say sell that player for his benefit. We now have Elanga, a hot and cool player. I think he had a very, very good season last year, coming on when and if we needed him. Really, really standout player, like the only player who was really playing for that badge. I really do think, you know what, I'm going to keep him in squad rotation. I think he's one of those players, I would like to see him loaned out and get a lot more minutes and literally play consistently. But for me, I think he plays for the badge every time, so you've got to keep him at the squad, whether he's not getting as many minutes, being around such high quality players in training every day and getting a couple of minutes here and there with the new 5-sub rule, whether it's maybe 20, 15 minutes at the end of a game, he can potentially change it and be a super sub for us. So I'm going to say Elanga, squad rotation player, but I really wouldn't mind if he got loaned out to a top level team and got consistent minutes week in, week out. Marcus Rashford. I'm going to go ahead and put Marcus Rashford in the top tier. Now, people might be screaming at the monitors or at the phones as they're watching this, but for me, Marcus Rashford is a top level player. We can't say that he's not. I think it's absolutely crazy to say otherwise. He had an awful season last season. We can all agree on that. Plagued with injuries. He wasn't consistent, but also was the squad itself. We had different managers. We had Ole in, Ole getting sacked, Ralf Rangnick coming in. Ralf Rangnick obviously not invested in the project because he's gone and left us to go and manage Austria. I don't know what the heck was going on last season, but I really want to forget about it. And I do believe, from what we've seen in the past, Marcus Rashford's got the quality to go all the way to the top. He's still relatively young, around about, I think he ages with me, so he's about 24, 25. And I think he's got bundles of talent, bundles of pace, energy. Great off the pitch, but that doesn't mean anything. We're talking about what's on the pitch at the moment. And I do think that he will have an absolutely outstanding season. We've seen him playing fantastic against Premier League level opponents in pre-season. I think he's absolutely electric. I think he's ready to play for this manager, and I do think we're going to absolutely see some insane games this season from Rashford. I'm very excited to see him play, and I think he can do it at the top level for a Champions League team, which we will be by the end of the season. Top four, we're coming for you. On that note as well, on the other wing, I do think that Jadon Sancho is a top-level player. Once again, very, very similar to what we said about Rashford. We didn't see the best season last year. This guy's about 21, 22 years old. Absolute bundles of talent and development ready to come. I do think that he is the best export out of Borussia Dortmund. Looking at you, Haaland. And I do think, obviously, Haaland's going to score buckets for Man City, but I do think that this guy's assists, this guy's attack, down the wing, in the box, he's a consistent pain. If you've seen anything in pre-season, once again, we're talking about Premier League level opponents that we've been playing, and this guy's been absolutely bossing it down that right wing. A real dangerous player. I was screaming for him to absolutely develop as much as he could. He was like my only shining light last season. I really, really wanted him to come good. I'll be honest, he didn't come good on his price tag. I think it's 76 million. But I do think he has it in him to go that next level and that next step up, which is Champions League level team. And I do think he will help us get to that top four spot. If he comes good, Rashford comes good, those are the players, Bruno as well. If they literally click and they all kind of find the system and how they want to play, he is top level player for me. So yeah, fingers crossed for Rashford, Sancho and Bruno to just come electric. Interesting one now. Big Ronnie, the GOAT, the best player of all time. There's been a lot of talk about him joining Atletico Madrid. As we speak, he's still in the squad. I can give you two options here. If he's not happy and he wants to play for a Champions League team and wants to try and win the Champions League before his career ends, and he's causing a bit of like disruption backstage, kind of like in the changing rooms. It's not long ago he was turning around saying that he can't wait to play under Ten Hag. 2 weeks down the line, turns around and says, I want to leave, I want to join a Champions League team. The guy's 37, 38 years old. He shouldn't be starting for us if we're this young, developing, kind of basically changing squad. I don't know whether Ten Hag would be too comfortable starting him up top either after his comments and after he's kind of pushing to join PSG, Atletico Madrid. So for me, Chelsea, there was also on the cards. If he is going to be a hindrance and he's not going to be happy playing for us, then it's a quite obvious sell. It's sell. You don't want a player. If a player's not happy at the team, sell them. That simple. But that aside, with him currently still being a Manchester United player, judging him as staying in the squad as he currently is, it's undeniable that this guy has been, always will be. For me, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. It's undeniable that he is Champions League level. That's what he wants to leave for. He wants to leave for a team where he can lead the line scoring goals and winning the Champions League one last time before he retires or goes to the MLS. That's my understanding anyway, and then probably finish up his career at Sporting Lisbon. But for me, this guy is undeniable. Absolutely dragged our team through the dirt. We really can't forget that David De Gea and Cristiano Ronaldo were the only two shining lights for me last season who really, really pushed on that squad. He scored something ridiculous, like an absolute, I think he finished like third top goal scorer in the Premier League. Everybody's looking on and talking about these top level players like Mohamed Salah, Mane and stuff like, fantastic players, undeniably great players, even though they play for Liverpool. Mane not anymore. But this guy was absolutely with what we were calling like an awful, uncoached, dismissive Manchester United team, and he still managed to bang in those goals. He's still got the quality. The guy's an absolute legend, and if he stays with the squad, he will be the leading striker for me. But if he's not happy and he wants to leave, then as I said, sell him. But we're sticking with him there for the time being because he's a legend. Tony Marshall. This guy is an absolute revelation. We're going to wrap up with a player that for me has come on leaps and bounds. It's very, very interesting. where we stand at the moment. In pre-season, he's been absolutely electric, but as we all know, somebody like Andreas Pereira, in previous pre-season games, he was absolutely unreal. So, they used to call him, what was it? I think it was like pre-season Messi or something, or pre-season, R9, something like that. People call him because in pre-season it's completely different to the nitty and gritty of the league. I think we're very, very weak in that striker position. We only have around about 3 players that can play that position. We have Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously Cavani's left, but Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment looking to leave. Anthony Martial, come on electric, but also we don't know the consistency with him, but so far, great player. Rashford can fill in at that spot if we need him, but he's not an out-and-out striker for me. He's better on the wing. And potentially we do need a sign in there. That striker position, it does worry me at the moment as a position. We've not got somebody who I'm looking to, definitely this person. We have Ronaldo who's looking to leave, and Martial didn't have the best season last season at Sevilla. He didn't really cut it for us when he was with us. But going off this season, and if he can continue that form, let's go off his current form, which is pre-season bossing it. I think, is it 4 goals in 4 games or something ridiculous? I don't know, something mad anyway. I'm going to say Martial has the level to be a top-level player. If we sign another striker, we're talking maybe, I nearly said David James, the Canadian striker who plays for Lille, is it Jonathan David? Potentially he would come in as maybe backup for the beginning part of the season, trying to take that position. There's other players like Moussa Dembele as well, another fantastic striker that's still on the market. And there will be a few others, like if you're looking, I doubt Everton would sell, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin, maybe a striker that could come in and take that position. I know Everton aren't in the best position. They've just sold Richarlison, so probably not. But I am going to say Martial is a top-level player. If he can keep up this form that he's been currently showing, fingers crossed he can. But there's definitely some signings that need to be made. Maybe a right back. We need some backup in, or potentially not backup, but starting positions in that midfield. Ideally De Jong, maybe Ruben Neves. And then definitely a striker that maybe plays backup, maybe pushes Martial for that starting position, or maybe just comes in and outright takes that position. I'm not sure who those players are, like I said, for that striking position, but this has been my current ranking of Manchester United players for the 2022-2023 season. We might redo this if we sign maybe 2 or 3 more players. Some players get sold. I'll add Amad Diallo, Hannibal, Garnacho, and we'll add a few more youth players into this as well, and we can redo it if you want me to after the transfer window closes. I think maybe we'll also approach it halfway through the season, see what we said, and then kind of see how it's changed. But for the meantime, I'm kind of happy with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what your guys' responses are. If you do want to do this yourself with this lineup, let me know. I'll put the link in the description. You guys can have a go of it. And you can send it me on Instagram. My Instagram handles are here. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on all of it. So if you want to come and join us, maybe join the Instagram family sitting at 10k as of recording this. It'd be interesting to see how it develops when you're watching. But for the meantime, I've been Joe. Thank you for watching Fanchester United, and I'll see you in a bit.